Let's move on to the next one. That is Broken Down Angel, which, oh, I remember that coming out as a single.
I think all the people in Nazareth, and the reason I have it there is, I think, all the original members of Nazareth, they have good memories of that song.
Yeah.
So it was such a relief, like when they had like the third and final album in the contract. If you don't have a hit now, you're kind of out, and when that came into the top 10,
yeah,
and Manny said that they were touring down in south of England, it came on the radio, and he says, well, to be able to listen back then to your own song that you wrote and recorded and everything else on the radio was just spectacular,
It must have been a hell of a feeling.
Oh,
to just be listening to the radio and then your song comes on.
Yeah, no, and what we have to remember as well is like these days, we can hear stuff all the time on so many channels. Back then, you had BBC One.
Yeah,
there was like one or two stations that you could listen to.
I remember it very, very well. I was a youngster back in the early 70s, and radio was much different then because in the UK, we had Top of the Pops on TV on a Thursday evening. If you were a bit older, you had the Old Grey Whistle Test, but that was late at night. That was, way past my bedtime. You had the chart rundown show on the radio, on Radio 1 on a Sunday evening. Anybody of my age will sort of recognise this. You had your little cassette recorder with a little electric microphone next to the radio speaker, and you'd be pressing the button as soon as the song that you were waiting for in the charts came on. Press the button, record it off the radio. Terrible quality, but it didn't matter because that's all you got. If you managed to skive off school on a Tuesday lunchtime, they did the initial chart rundown for the week on a Tuesday lunchtime. But, that was like you were supposed to be at school then. So if you were off sick, that was a bit of a treat if you were off sick.
Yeah.
But that was it. There was no music on demand. There was no 24-hour this. We only had 3 TV channels.
Yeah, and there was no way to record it either, so you couldn't sort of record the video of the TV, for example, it's like so you listen to it, and then the only way to actually listen to it again was to go out and buy the record or go to the concert. And that's why Manny said when they did that tour, the week prior to it coming out, they played for like half full venues, but then after that they were hanging from the ceiling, they could not sell enough tickets, so they just played bigger and bigger venues, and
that must have been an incredible feeling.
I think like that's sort of gave them all sort of a sense of, okay, this is what we're going to do now, and actually Brian Johnson actually recently was interviewed on BBC on Desert Island Discs or something, and he selected Broken Down Angels as one of his tracks, and he said the reason he did it was at the time, obviously we lost Dan McCafferty, the singer, back in October 22, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he played it as a memory to him because Brian Johnson at the time was touring with Nazareth up in when they played Newcastle.
Yeah, because he was in Geordie.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was opening for Nazareth, and that's when Brian Johnson says, well, he realized that he was kind of doing the wrong sort of thing. He wanted to do more of that sort of rock stuff that Nazareth was doing. And he told a story of after the gig, Dan took him out to the van and played him. Broken Down Angel had just been released.
Right.
And Brian Johnson also said like that's one of his best memories of listening to that and just talking about that story. He just says, well, it was just so exciting to hear it.